Well, of course, it's hard to predict the future, but certainly it would be my hope and the hope of many others that there would be a long-standing alliance between the United States and the Kurdish people. We share many of the same values, and we are very grateful for what the Kurdish people are doing in fighting ISIS. And many of us here in the United States believe that the Kurdish people deserve their own nation. And certainly I, for one, will work very hard to make sure that the relationship between the American people and the Kurdish people continues long after ISIS is defeated. Well, I think it is the moral thing to do and the correct military thing to do for the United States to provide Kurdish fighters with the resources and the weapons that they need in order to prevail in this conflict. We just recently, unfortunately, signed a deal with Iran that has resulted in Iran getting billions of dollars of American money that, quite frankly, they can use for anything they want, and we know in some cases they will use it for terrorism. So some of us are puzzled why our current government here in the United States is unwilling to give the same type of resources to the Kurdish people in their struggle. So yes, I support very strongly giving your fighters the arms and weapons that they need. It's something that will be fought out in American politics, but I know that in the case of Christians United for Israel, which I'm part of, we would very much support the Kurdish people having the resources that they need, and we will do everything that we can to help the Kurds as we also stand with our friends in Israel. Yeah, you know, in the last decade, America has driven away some of our friends. We've angered some of our allies, and at the same time we've reached out to some of our former enemies, and a lot of people are confused by that. Our foreign policy seems to be upside down. So we look at the Kurdish people and we see a friend and an ally. So I believe it's important for the United States in a dangerous world to stand with our friends, including the Kurdish people. Well, for example, President Obama reached out to Cuba and made a number of concessions to them that were puzzling to many of us. This deal with Iran, the nuclear deal, appears to be very badly thought out, and if anything, Iran has become more aggressive since the deal, not less aggressive. At the same time, the current president here has often berated Israel. He's insulted some of our friends in Europe. So in a number of areas, our foreign policy has been very unsatisfactory to many Americans. And we have a hope that in the upcoming presidential election that there might be a chance for American foreign policy to get back on the right track. Well, for a number of decades now, Turkey has been important to the United States. We have a large air base there, as I'm sure you know, and we've been broadly speaking allies. under the current leadership in Turkey, however, there appears to be more and more hostility toward the United States and difficulties, unfortunate difficulties. So I think when it comes to Kurdish independence, the right to a Kurdish state, that the United States should come down on the side of the Kurds rather than worry about what Erdogan thinks in Turkey about the situation. Yes, you're right. There's been no formal position made by the president, certainly, but there are many people in our Congress that would like to see Kurdish statehood. And we think as you continue your courageous fight against ISIS, that belief in the United States will grow as people see your courage and hear more about the discrimination and the oppression that Kurds have had to deal with, both in Turkey and in Syria. You know, I think the Israeli government is in the same sort of position. They haven't announced a formal statement on all of this, but I believe that the Israeli government, as are many in our Congress, believe that this is the fair thing to do, Kurdish independence. And it's something that I think with a new U.S. president, that perhaps Israel and the United States could work together on. Yes, well, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm a Republican, and so I lean toward the Republican Party and its candidates. But putting that aside, I believe it's more likely that a President Trump would be more sympathetic to Kurdish independence than a President Hillary Clinton would be. You know, it's hard, obviously, to predict these things, but I just don't see in the Democrat Party much support for taking a stronger stand throughout the Middle East as I see in Mr. Trump. I think he would be better for the Kurdish people. My pleasure, and my best to the Kurdish people in their struggle for recognition and statehood.